Hello and welcome back to iAstack. In today's tutorial, we will build a full stack authentication system with Angular and Node.js by using Express and JWT, that is also called JSON Web Token, for secure API authentication. We'll create a sign up page for new user registration and a login page for existing users. And will protect front-end routes using Angular guards so that only authenticated users can access certain pages. No external styling libraries. We'll use plain CSS for a simple, clean UI. By the end, you'll have a working Angular app with a Node and MongoDB backend that manages user accounts and JWT-based authentication. So this is what we are going to build. A Node.js plus Express backend with MongoDB via Mongoose to store users, API endpoints for user registration and user login, JWT generation and verification on the backend to authenticate API requests, and Angular frontend with signup form and login form, and Angular Auth service to handle JWT storage and HTTP communication with backend. Then route guard in Angular to protect routes, for example, a profile page from unauthenticated access. Then logout functionality to invalidate the session on the client side. Throughout this video, we'll explain each step in detail, from setting up the projects, writing the code, to how JWT authentication works under the hood. Let's get started. Before we dive into coding, let's briefly discuss what JWT is and how it works in our app. JWT is an enclosed string composed of three parts: a header, a payload, and a signature separated by dots, for example. So in this example, you see that this is how the JSON Web Token would be formatted. So here, header typically contains metadata about the token, like signing algorithm and token type. The payload contains claims. This is the data you encode into token, for example, user ID, email, token, expiry time. And then the signature is the cryptographic signature obtained by signing the header and payload with a secret key. This makes the token tamper proof. If someone modifies the payload, the signature will no longer match and token will be invalid. When a user logs in with their credentials, the backend verifies the credential and generates a JWT that encodes the user's identity, for example, their user ID. The JWT is sent back to the client Angular app. The client stores this token typically in local storage and uses it as proof of authentication. For any subsequent request to protected API routes, the client attaches this JWT usually in HTTP authorization header like authorization bearer space the token. The backend, upon receiving a request, will verify JWT using secret key. If token is valid and not expired, the request is allowed to proceed, otherwise it's rejected with unauthorized. On the front end, we'll also use Angular route guard to prevent users from navigating to protected pages if they are not logged in. That is, if we don't have a valid token for them. This way, the backend trusts JWT since it's signed with a secret only the server knows, and the frontend can trust that if it has a token, it represents an authenticated users. JWTs are stateless. That means server doesn't need to keep a session in the memory or DB. The token itself is a proof, which makes them great for scalable authentication. We'll implement this step by step now. So we are going to set up the backend by using Node.js, Express, and MongoDB. First, let's set up our Node.js backend project. So open your terminal, choose a directory on your machine and create a new folder for the backend. For example, auth-backend. So for that, first of all, I'm going to create a root folder that is going to contain both of these projects. So we can name it JWT Authentication System Angular. You can name it whatever you want. I'm just giving it self-explanatory name so that I could remember. Node Mongo. Okay. Alright, the folder has been created. Now within that, I am going to create a folder auth-backend. You can just name it backend. And let's go inside that folder and now run the command npm init-y. So that would initialize our Node.js. It creates the package.json with default values Next, let's install the necessary dependencies. So for that, I would install npm express mongoose course JSON Web Token bcrypt. Okay, so all of these dependencies would be installed altogether one by one. So here is what each package is for. The Express is fast web framework for Node.js to create our API server. The Mongoose is for MongoDB object modeling tool to define schemas and interact with MongoDB. Then Course, it is for middleware to enable cross-origin resource sharing. Since our Angular frontend will run on a different port, we need Course enabled on the backend. Then JSON Web Token. This is a library to sign and verify JWT tokens. Then we have bcrypt. That is the library to hash passwords securely. We'll never store plain text passwords in database. Ensure you have MongoDB running. If you don't have a local MongoDB, you can use MongoDB Atlas. So just get a connection string. For local Mongo, the default connection URL might look like this. HTTP localhost 27017. But in this case, I'm also going to use MongoDB Atlas. That is a live version. So let's go to their website and create things to set up and start using it. So use open MongoDB Atlas, search for that. All right. If you don't have an account already, then you should fill this form to create an account. If you already have it, you can just sign in. I would just use the Google account to sign up. All right, I am inside my MongoDB account. Here, let's look at what we have so far. We have the projects. I am going to create a new project. You can name it Angular login API tutorial. I name it whatever you want. Click next, create a project. All right, now let's create a cluster, and here you have to choose which plan you want to use. I would use the free plan that has the storage of 500 MB, RAM shared, vCPU is also shared, so select that, and it is free forever as it says. You can name your cluster, and you can select what provider you want to use, and you can select the location where you want to host it. So let's say you want to host it in US, just select it as it is and click on the create deployment. All right, now it shows you this pop-up, setup connection security. You need to secure your MongoDB Atlas cluster before you can use it. Set which users and IP address can access your cluster now. After you add the IP address, so it already has detected my IP address, so this step is already completed. Next, we need to create a database user. So this first user will have Atlas admin permissions for this project. We auto-generated a username and password. You can use this or create your own. You will need your database users credentials in next step. So copy database and user password. So these are the details. You can change it or use them as it is. I just click on the copied. That would give me the password. Actually, before closing it, let's open my backend project in VS Code. So for that, I would type code space dot, and that would open this backend project in VS Code for me. All right, now here I am going to create a file .env for saving my environment variables. So for now, I will just copy these details just to keep them somewhere. I will change it shortly. All right, now click on the choose connection method. What is it saying? Set up your user security permissions below. Oh, okay, so I did not click on the create database user, so click on that first. Now it is done. Click on the choose a connection method, and here they have multiple ways to use it. First one is connect to your application drivers. Access your Atlas data using MongoDB's native drivers like Node.js, etc. I guess we need to use this one. Select that and select the Node.js, and in the version select the, as we are going to use Mongoose, so select Mongoose, and here you can select the version, and next it is saying you need to install this dependency. We already have installed it. And next one is add your connection string into your application code. Use this connection string in your application. Okay, if you want to see full sample code, this is a sample code. Just uncheck it again. We just need this URL, so copy that, and instead of saving this, I will paste this URL here. I will use it shortly. Now click on the done. So our cluster is created, and now, so in cluster section, you see your clusters. We only have one cluster at the moment that is currently active and ready to be used. So if you click on the browse collections, here you will see all of your data. Currently, we don't have any collection. We did not create anything yet. So database counter is 0 and collections count is also 0. All right, now let's proceed further. In the backend folder, let's create two files. First one is server.js and second one would be model/user with capital U .js. Okay, so the server.js will be the main entry to start our Express server, and the user.js will contain the Mongoose schema and model for the user accounts. You can organize code in many ways, but for this tutorial we will keep it simple with everything in these two files. Plus we'll define our routes in server.js. In a larger project, you might separate routes files, controllers, etc., but concepts remain the same. Now let's define the user model by using Mongoose. So open your user.js in models folder and define the Mongoose schema for our user. We want fields for at least email and password and maybe username. For simplicity, we will just use the email and password. We'll also use Mongoose unique validator and on email to prevent duplicate accounts. So let's quickly do it. Constant Mongoose is equal to require Mongoose, okay, and create a constant user schema is equal to new Mongoose dot schema, and here we will pass an object with property email and password. Email would be of type string and required true, and it should be unique, so pass unique true. In the password, the type should be string, it should be required true, and then module.exports is equal to mongoose.model and pass it the name of the model, that would be user and user schema. Okay, save it. So this defines a user model we can use in our routes to create and find users in the MongoDB database. Now open server.js and set up Express app and MongoDB connection. So first of all, we will add some import statements. First one is express is equal to require express, like this. Then we need few more import statements. Second one would be Mongoose from the Mongoose. Then we need the course from the course. Then we need JSON Web Token and name it JWT. After that we need bcrypt with the same name, save it. After that we need to import the user model. So create a constant user is equal to require model/user, like this, and constant app is equal to express, and then constant port is equal to 3000, and then constant JWT secret is equal to my secret key. So in the real application, use a more complex key, and also I would advise to move it in the .env file, like this. Secret is equal to this, okay, and here let's move it in the another variable, MongoDB URL is equal to this. Okay, now in order to use it, we have to install another dependency, and the name of the dependency is .env or .env. So run the command npm install .env, press enter, and now we will import that dependency. Constant .env is equal to require .env. Okay, now before doing anything else, we should load our .env file by running the command by calling the function .env.config. Okay, save it. With that, our .env file has been loaded into our Node.js application, and all of the environment variables are available in the process property that is accessible anywhere in our entire Node.js application. Now we can get rid of this. After that, we need to create our course and JSON middleware. We already have them. We just need to call them. So for that, use app.use. Here you can pass express.json, and then we have app.use course. So about this middleware, it parses JSON bodies for post requests, and this enables course for all origin for development. Next, we need to connect to the MongoDB. So for that, mongoose.connect, and here we will use the environment variable. So for that, use process.env. Let me copy paste the name of the environment variable, Mongo. Actually, spellings are incorrect. MongoDB URL, like this. Save it and paste it here. After that, we need to pass another second argument that would be an object, and here we will specify use new URL parser use new URL parser true, and then use unified topology true. Okay, save it. So here, as this would return a promise, so I would resolve it by calling the then function, and within that I will pass a callback function, and here I will show a success message console.log connected to MongoDB. Okay, and then after that I will catch the errors if any and pass it a callback function. I would be getting the error in that parameter of that callback function, and let's display that error. Console.error MongoDB connection error, and concatenate, or actually pass a second argument with that error that we got. Now let's quickly break down what we did. We required the needed modules, Express, Mongoose, etc., and our user model. We created an Express app and set port 3000 in the example. Actually, I forgot to start the app, so let me quickly complete that. Then we will continue app.listen, and here we need to pass the callback function, and also we need to pass the port that we want to use. Actually, the first parameter would be the port, and here you will specify the port in this way, and here you can add a console log listening on port like this. Okay, so we started our server on port 3000 in this example, and we also added the JWT secret that we will use shortly. We added the middleware express.json to parse incoming JSON request, and course to allow requests from our Angular app, which we will run on a different origin, for example localhost :4200. Then we connected the MongoDB with Mongoose. We used a database name Auth. Actually, I did not specify the database name yet, so here make sure to add the database name auth demo. So we used the database name auth demo on the Mongo instance, and we also handled the success and error with a promise .then catch to know if DB is connected. At this point, we have a server configured and a DB connection. Now let's implement the authentication routes, one for sign up and one for login. So we will start from implementing the registration route or sign up. We want an endpoint where new users can register. So typically that's a post request to something like /API/signup or /API/register in our Express app. We'll add that now here on the bottom. But before that, let me start the server to make sure that everything is working correctly fine. So for that, clear everything, run the command node in server.js. Actually, I did not save it, so start it again. Okay, now it is saying that it is listening on port 3000, and also we got the success message from MongoDB that is saying connected to the MongoDB. So everything is working fine and ready to be used. So here I'm going to add app.post. So here I just registered the post method, and here the path would be API/signup and async request response try catch, and in the catch I would display the error in this way: console.error during signup, and pass the error message in this way. and also send a response dot status of 500 JSON message server error during sign up. Okay, save it. Now within try, we will write our logic. We will first take the email password from the request body in this way, constant email password request.body. And then here we will check if user with given email already exists. For that, I would use constant existing user is equal to await user dot find one email. Okay, so here I will check if existing user found, then we need to stop here and return an error response dot status of 500 with JSON along with message that would be saying email already in use. Okay, and if this user doesn't exist already with that email, then we will create a new user by creating a constant new user is equal to new user. So we are instantiating the user model that we already imported from this file, and within that we will pass the data in the form of an object. Email should be email and the password should be the hashed password. We are not going to use the password as it is, we have to hash it first. So here create a constant hashed password is equal to await bcrypt dot hash and pass it the raw password and pass the second argument 10, that would be the salt rounds. Alright, after that is done, we will save that new user by calling the save function. Await new user dot save, as save would return a promise, so we have to use the await here. So after this line the user would be created, so return a response dot status of 201 because resource is created here. So dot JSON, pass it a message user registered successfully. Okay, and that's it. So let's quickly look at what we have done here. This is a complete breakdown of this sign up logic, that we extract the email and password from the request.body. The JSON payload Angular will send when someone submits the sign up form. We check if a user with that email already exists in database using user.find1. If yes, then respond with status 400 and a message that email is taken here. If the email is new, we hash the password using bcrypt.hash with a salt rounds value of 10, a common default. Hashing ensures we never store raw passwords. Even if the database is compromised, attackers can't easily get the actual passwords. We then create a new user instance with the email and hashed password and save it to the MongoDB with save function. On success, we respond with 201 status. That implies created and success message. We are not returning a token upon sign up in this flow. We'll ask the user to log in after registering. Alternatively, some apps auto log in the user after sign up by reusing a token here, by issuing a token here, but we'll keep it simple. On error like DB errors, we catch it and respond with 500 status and log the error. Now before moving on to the sign in, we will test it really quick. For that, open the Postman. Alright, in this Postman, I would select the method post because we registered the post method here. That's why we have to use post method whenever we are going to test it. And here I will enter the URL of my backend, http localhost :3000/API/register, and hit the submit button. Here, if you click on the preview, we got 404 because the path is not correct. It is actually sign up. So again, it is saying it is not found. Actually, we created the endpoint, but we did not restart the server. So stop the server and start it again. There is another solution. If you implement that, then it would automatically restart the server on every change. So let's quickly implement that so that we don't do that mistake again. So install another dev dependency, that is npm install, that is node mon, and specify save -dev so that we could make sure that it would be saved as the dev dependency. So in the package.json, you would notice that it would create another block for the dev dependencies. And now in the script section, I'm going to create another script with the name dev and pass it the command npm nodemon and give it the path of the file, that is server.json. JS. Okay, save it. Now if you run the command npm run dev, it would immediately run this script, and that script would run the server.js with the help of the nodemon, and this is now in the watch mode. So let me show you. If you make a change here, for example, add some dots here, save it, you would notice that after saving it would restart the server immediately. Look at that. Okay, so that is very convenient and time saver. Now let's go to the postman, hit the send button again. This time we got another kind of error, that is status 500 with the message saying that server error during sign up. Okay, so the reason is that in the body we did not include anything yet. We were actually expecting specific format from the body, that was email and password. So let's do that. Click on the raw. From this drop down, pick the JSON and pass the JSON with the property email should be xyz@gmail.com and the password would be abc. Okay, send it. This time I got 201 status with the success message saying user registered successfully. Okay, that's mean it worked. Now let's go back to our MongoDB cluster or Atlas to see if we have any change here. Earlier we had 0 database and 0 collections. If you reload it, you would notice that we have 1 database, 1 collection. The database name is auth demo. That was created because we added the name of the database by adding slash here, /auth demo. That became the database, and within that we have the collection. So this is just one collection with the name users, and so every instance of the model of Mongoose or MongoDB would become the collection here. So this is one collection, and every item in that collection would become a document. So we have only one document here yet, and this is the data, email, and the hashed password here. Now let's implement the login route, the sign in route. So we need a login endpoint, let's say API/login. So go back to the server, and I will copy paste this entire piece of code, and here instead of sign up we need sign in, and I am going to get rid of all of this. Okay, very first thing is that we are getting the email password from the request body. By the way, here a user would provide the email password, we verify them, and if correct we will send back a JWT token. So after getting email password, we will find user by email. So create a constant user is equal to await user.find1. So this is the same thing that we did earlier here. So you can copy paste that part as well. You can this time name it user, and we will check if user was not found, then we will return an error to the response. Response.status would be 400 with the JSON message property invalid email or password. Okay, save it. Now we will check the password. So we will create a constant is match is equal to await bcrypt.compare and pass it the password as it is and use the hashed password from the database. So this is basically the raw password, and this is the hashed password that we got from the database. Now we will check if is match. Actually, if this is not matched, then we will stop here and return an error message response.status 400.json message invalid email or password. Okay, and if password was matched, then we will authenticate. Actually, it is already authenticated. We will just create a JWT because user has already authenticated. So create a constant token is equal to JWT.sign. And within that, first we will pass the payload identifying info. So here I will pass user ID is equal to user.id. In MongoDB, the ID is added with underscore, and the email is user.email. Save it. After that, I will pass a second argument that would be the JWT secret, and that would be coming the process environment. So use process.env.jwt secret. And by the way, in .env we have to change the name because earlier we were using just secret, so I'm going to change it from that to JWT secret. Save it. Okay, and after that there is a third parameter that would be an object. Here we will pass some options. We will pass the expiry time. That token will expire in 1 hour. For that, the property would be expires in and string 1h, means 1 hour. And finally at the end we will send the JSON. We don't need to pass the status this time because it will automatically use the 200 status. And in the response payload we will add token as it is and a user property with email user.email. Okay, so now let's quickly test it and then I will go through all of this code once again. So go back to the Postman, duplicate this tab, and here instead of sign up I will use sign in, and in the body we already have email and password. If you hit the send button, we will get the 200 status with an object with properties token and user. Token has the JWT token. In the user we included only the email. You can include more information if you want to, or you can also get the email from the token as well, because you can definitely decode the token on the Angular side as well to get the email, so it's fine. So now let's quickly go through the code really quick. So here we are getting the email and password from the request body. We look up a user with that email. If not found, we will return the 400 status bad request with a generic invalid email or password message to avoid giving away which part was wrong. If user exists, we use the bcrypt.compare to check the provided password against the hashed password in database. If it doesn't match, respond with 400 status and invalid email or password. If credentials are correct, we generate a JWT using JSON Web Token.sign function. We include in tokens payload an identifier for user. Here we put the user ID and maybe the email as well. You can include any non-sensitive information you might need on the client. We sign in with our JWT secret here. We also set an expiry of 1 hour. You can adjust the expiration as needed. Shorter expiry with refresh token flows, etc. But that's beyond this tutorial's scope. But you can let me know if you are interested in that depth. I would create another tutorial for you. So we send back JSON response containing the token. We also send some user info here, just the email in case of the frontend wants to display it or store it. Sending users info is not strictly necessary. The client could decode the token to get the email if it is in payload, but it's convenient. So at this point our two main endpoints are ready, sign up and login. We have not yet implemented any protected route on the backend, but let's quickly set up an example protected route to demonstrate JWT verification on the server and to use in our Angular app later, perhaps for a profile page. So let's quickly create an optional protected route example. We'll create a simple route to get the current user's profile information, accessible only if a valid JWT is provided in the request. So this will show how to verify JWT in Express. So first let's create a middleware function to verify tokens. So here I'm going to create a function authenticate token and pass 3 parameters. We will be getting 3 parameters: request, response and next. And here tokens are typically sent in the authorization header as bearer. So let's create a constant auth header is equal to request.headers and get it from this property authorization, because this is most common convention. And the constant token would store that token by checking if auth token is there, and then split auth header dot split from the space and get the token from the one index. And if token is not found, by doing that, then return response dot status 401 dot JSON with message saying no token provided, authorization denied. Okay, save it. So after that I will create a try catch block. In the error section I will simply return an error, response.status 403.json with message invalid or expired token. And in the try block, I will create a constant decoded where we will be decoding our JWT token. So JWT.verify, actually it should be JWT.verify, and pass it the token, and process.env.jwt secret. Okay, so here we are using the same JWT secret. Here we are using same JWT secret that we used to create. So here we are using the same JWT secret salt that we used to create our JWT token earlier when user signed in. So if this is the same secret that was used to create the token earlier, then it would work. Otherwise, it would fail to verify, and we will not authenticate the request. So here request.user is equal to decoded. So here basically I attached decoded token payload, for example user ID, to request object that would be accessible in any API endpoint. So use the next function, call it here. So let me quickly explain what I have done here. The authenticate token middleware checks for a token in the request header. We expect the header authorization bearer. We extract the token string here from the split method, then use the JWT verify with our secret. If verification succeeds, we attach the decoded payload to the request.user. So downstream handlers know which user this is because of this line, and then we will call the next function to proceed. If there is no token or it's invalid or expired, respond with 401, that implies unauthorized, or 403, that implies forbidden accordingly. Now let's add a protected route that uses this middleware. So let's add it here, app.get/API/profile, and here last time we had only two parameters. Second parameter had request and response with async here, but this time we will have another parameter here that would act as an middleware. So pass authenticate token, and here add try catch, and in the catch I will simply console.log with error fetching profile and pass the error as a second argument, and then send the response.status 500.json with message server error. Okay, and in the try block I will use the request.user that was set by the authenticate token middleware containing user ID and email. So let's do that. Constant user ID is equal to request.user.user ID. Okay, so we basically added this user at the line number 104. So now we got the user ID. We will fetch the user's data from DB excluding the password. So create a constant user is equal to await user.find by ID, and here pass the user ID and select, and here I will exclude the password in this way by using dash password, and if user was not found, then we will stop here and return an error. If user not found, then return response.status 404.json message user not found, and if user was found, then simply return response.json with user object in it. Okay, save it. So this route will return the user's data minus the password field if the request has a valid JWT. If the token is missing or invalid, the authentication token or authenticate token middleware will already have responded with an error. So this handler runs only when authentication passed. Now let's quickly test it. Here we got the token already. I'm going to copy it and open a new tab. Actually, let me duplicate this tab so that we could have the URL already in /API/profile, and use the get method here. Hit the send button. I did not attach any token, so I got the 401 unauthorized error status with the message no token provided, authorization denied. Now go to the headers and add the authorization header like this, and in the value put bearer and paste the token like this. It is saying invalid token, so let's see why. Okay, Maybe the A is capital, we use the small a. Nope, that was not the reason. Okay, let's see what's wrong here. In here, we're failing here. Okay, so let me add console log here to see the token and try it again. We're getting the correct token. So maybe we have to log in again because I tested it earlier. So let me try a fresh token here. Copy this token and paste it here. Bearer, send. Alright, so there was something wrong with that token, with that session. So I created a new session, new token, and this time we got the 200 status with the payload, and that contains the user object that we got from the MongoDB. Now we have fully functional backend APIs. Sign up, login, and profile. So sign up does the user registration, login does the user login, that returns the JWT, and profile route is the protected route to get user info that requires the JWT in the header. By the way, there is another way to include the header in the postman. If you remove it, let me actually just get rid of this and go to the authorization. Here, if you select JWT or bearer token, just pick that. You need to paste the token. It would automatically add the header. So if you go to the header, click on the 9 hidden, here you would see the authorization with the token is added, and you cannot edit anything from here. This is read only. So if you want to edit, you can go back to the authorization and make changes here. Okay, now that our backend is ready and running on port 3000, let's build the Angular frontend to interact with it. So let's set up our Angular frontend. Now we will create the Angular application that will provide the user interface for sign up and login, and will communicate with our backend API. So let's create the Angular project. Make sure you have the Angular CLI installed. If not, then open your terminal, and here you need to run this command. That would be npm install -g angular/CLI. Press enter, and that would install the Angular CLI globally in your system. For me, it is already installed, so I will use the existing one. In your desired directory, separate from the backend folder, run the Angular CLI command to create the new project. So for that, if you go back to your backend, in the terminal, in the root directory of your backend, I will just use cd .. It will take me one step behind of this folder structure, and if you use ls, you would see that we can see the auth-backend folder here. So at this stage, we will create a new folder. Actually, I will just run the Angular CLI that would create the folder automatically. So run the command ng new auth frontend -- routing is equal to true, and style is equal to CSS. Here we will set no, because we are not going to use SSR or static site generation. So just press no. We used routing true that creates a routing module for us, which we will use to define routes for login and sign up. We used style CSS to ensure that we use plain CSS files. Angular defaults to CSS, but if your CLI is set to another style, this flag forces. Alright, the Angular project has been installed. So navigate into the project folder by using cd auth frontend and type code space dot. If for your case, if code space dot doesn't work, you can directly open a new instance of VS Code and open the folder manually, but for me it works, so I will just use it. Okay, the frontend folder has been created and opened in my editor. So open the terminal in the root directory of this project and run the command ng serve. Press enter. It would start the server on the port 4200. Okay, so you can press Control or Command and click on this link. It would open the app in your browser. So this is the Angular welcome page. We will now set up our components and services. So let's quickly talk about the project structure. We will look at this overview. We will create components like login component, sign up component, and a profile component. That would be the protected page after login. Then we will have a service, auth service, to handle HTTP request and authentication logic. Then we will create a guard with the name auth guard to protect the routes. We will also configure our routes in app-routing.module.ts, maybe a simple navigation. but I guess app.module is not included in the latest versions app routing for routing. So we just have the app.routes but not app routing module. So keep that in mind because we are using standalone components here in the latest version of Angular. Anyways, so now let's generate the pieces using Angular CLI. You can also create files manually, but CLI ensures everything is registered. So open another terminal in the root directory of your project and type these commands one by one. ng generate c for component, then in the this would be the path of the component. It is going to be in the component /login, and then I need ng generate c component /signup. Then I need ng generate components /profile. Then I need ng generate service in the services folder with the name auth. Then we need ng generate guard in the guards folder with the name auth. Press enter. It would generate all of these files one by one all together. You can see these are being created. I made a mistake, I guess. For the login, I did not use the s at the end. I used the component. That's why it created it separately. So I'm going to get rid of that and create it once again. By the way, it is asking me a question that which kind of guard you want. We need the can activate guard. So press space and it would show the green circle here. That means that it has been selected. So press enter and the guard has been created. Now let's quickly create our component ng generate c in the component /login. Press enter. Alright, it has been created. So now let's implement each piece one by one. We will first configure the environment, the API URL. So this is the optional step. In the real world Angular app, you would configure the backend API base URL in the environment files, for example in the environment.ts. But in the latest versions of Angular apps, the environment file is not generated, so you have to generate it by yourself. So for that there is a CLI command ng generate c environments. Press enter. Actually this is wrong, let me delete it. It generated the component. I should not have mentioned the c. And let me clear it. ng generate environments. Press enter. Okay, it generated the environment for the production and for the development here in the environments folder. Okay, now in this environment.development.ts I would just add production. Actually no need to mention that, just specify the API URL. API URL is equal to it is http://localhost 3000/API. Save it, and we will add a URL here as well, but this would be used when you build your application for the production. For the development only this file would be read automatically. So if you deploy on a live server, you would have to replace this URL. So this way you can reference the environment.api URL in the service. For simplicity in this tutorial, we might just hard code the URL in the service, are not needed because we have already added the URL here. So either you hard code the URL or you can just add it here. But in the real world applications, we don't hard code, we just add the URLs here. Alright, now let's implement the auth service. Open the auth.service from this folder, and here this service will handle making HTTP requests to our backend and also store the authentication state, the JWT token. So first import the needed modules and define the class skeleton. That is already defined, we just need to add some basic things. So first of all I need to import the HTTP. Actually if you're using VS Code, you don't have to type them manually. You would be getting the suggestions. If you click them, it would automatically import them. In some case, if doesn't auto import for you, you can manually type by looking at this video. So first of all, in the constructor we are going to inject some services. First one is going to be HTTP client, and then we need to add another service, router, with the name router. Press enter. You will see that both of the services are imported. Now let's create a function to sign up a new user. So add sign up. We will be getting the email of type string and the password of type string, and then create a constant body is equal to email password, and then we will return this .http.post and use backticks, and here I will use this syntax dollar curly braces, and here I will use environment, and make sure to use this path. Although this file is for production, but in Angular is smart enough that it will know that if you're running it locally in development, it would automatically use the .development file for you. You don't have to hard code that name here. But if it is built already for production, it would automatically use the production URL. Okay. Now after adding the URL, we will add the remaining part of our endpoint. That would be /API/signup. Okay. And pass a second argument that would be the body of this endpoint. Save it and return this response. Now we need to create a function for login, and that is going to be almost same, so I'm going to copy paste it here, and the difference would be only the name of the function would be different, sign in or login, and here the endpoint name would also be login. Actually the endpoint is sign in, so let's keep using that, sign in here, and pass the body. Next we need to implement the logout function. So logout return, check the local storage dot, actually this is wrong, it should be logout, and in the logout I will remove the token from the local storage dot remove item, pass it the name of the local storage, that is token, and then this dot router dot navigate and pass it an array with the string /login. After that I will create a function, check if user is logged in, and return, this would return a boolean, so I will use a double not operators here, local storage dot get item, and pass it the name of the local storage item, that is token. Okay, save it. So let me explain this auth service. So we are getting the URL from the, actually I did not use the property API URL, so that was a mistake. So we are using the .api URL from environment file pointing to our backend API. If you used a different name of property, you can change it. We then injected the HTTP client to make HTTP calls and router to navigate on the logout. So then we have the signup method that sends a post request to the /API/signup with email and password. It returns an observable. Angular HTTP client methods return observables by default. The component will subscribe to this to get the response. Then we have the login method that sends a post to /API/login endpoint. On the backend, this will return a token and possibly a user info. Then we have the logout. To log out, we simply remove the token from local storage where we plan to store it and redirect to the login page. Then we have the is logged in. This is a quick check if token exists in the local storage. If it exists, then we assume the user is logged in. Note that this doesn't verify token validity or expiry. In a real app, you would possibly decode and check the expiration, but this is sufficient for controlling access in the front end. Then we are going to have another function that would be get token. So this would return local storage dot get item token. Okay, so this is just a helper to fetch the token from local storage. We will use this in the interceptor. We should also ensure that HTTP client module is included in your application configuration, so that HTTP client works. So for that, in the latest version of Angular, you would have the app.config, but if you're using older versions of Angular, you might have app.module where you have to import the HTTP client module. But in this case, in the latest versions, we have the app.config.ts with the providers array. So here you need to add a function provide HTTP client like this, and make sure to call this function and add the import statement like this. So this ensures that our app can make HTTP requests and use wherever we need it. Now let's implement the auth guard. So open the auth.service.ts. The auth guard will use our auth guard to check if the user is logged in and decide whether to allow a route activation or redirect to login. So open the auth guard, where it was in the guards folder. Now first of all, we need to inject two services. For that, as this is a functional guard, we used to have class based guards in older versions of Angular. You can still do that, but this is the default behavior that you will be having the functional approach. So that is also fine and good option. So in such situations, if you want to inject a service, just call a function. First create a constant to hold or save the service. Auth service is equal to, and call the function inject. Make sure to add the import statement from the Angular/core and call that function and pass it the service that you would like to inject. I want to inject the auth service like this. Okay, we got the auth service. Now I need to create another constant for the router is equal to inject router. So make sure to add all of the import statements that are required. And now as we got these services here, I would check if this dot auth service, actually not this, if auth service dot is logged in true, then we will simply return the true. Okay, but in the else case, user is not logged in and we just have to redirect to the login page. So we will check this dot router dot navigate. Actually, again, I'm doing the same mistake, not this, it is router dot navigate, and call that function with the path or route login, save it. And here I will also return the false. Okay, and we don't need this. So the can activate guard simply returns true, allow navigation if auth service is logged in is true. Otherwise it navigates to the /login route and returns false. That means cancel the navigation. We provided the guard in the functional approach. We also need to use it in the route whenever we will be defining to protect our routes, like the profile page route, to prevent access if not logged in. Next, we will implement an HTTP interceptor to automatically attach the JWT token to any outgoing HTTP request to our API. So this way, when our Angular app calls the protected endpoints like /API/profile, we don't have to manually set the authorization header every time. The interceptor will do it if a token exists. So open the terminal and run the command ng generate interceptor /auth. So here you got another folder with interceptor.ts. Now let's implement it. So here, first of all, I will inject both of these services. Actually, it's just single service, that is constant auth service is equal to inject auth service. Make sure to add import statement for this inject, and then create a constant auth token is equal to auth service dot get token. And now I will check if auth token is found, then we need to clone the request and add to the authorization header. For that, create a constant auth request is equal to request dot clone, and within the clone function I will pass an object with property headers, and then request dot headers dot set, pass it the name of the header, that would be authorization, and then bearer space, and then concatenate it with the auth token, save it. Okay, now after this I will return the auth request like this, return next dot handle. Actually not that, I just need to return next and pass the cloned request like this, paste it in this. Okay, that's it. But if token is not valid, then our token is not provided, then it would just pass the request as it is without attaching any header in the request. So this interceptor checks if there is a token via our auth service. If yes, it clones the outgoing request and adds an authorization bearer header to it, then lets it continue. If no token is present, it just forwards the request unchanged. We need to register this interceptor in our app. So as we are using latest version of Angular, so this is a new way to register interceptor. So for that, again go to the app.config where you have called and provided the HTTP by calling the function provide HTTP client. Within that, you need to pass an array, and then you have to pass the function in this way, auth interceptor. That's it. So I guess we have to pass another function with interceptors like this, and then I need to pass an array like this, and now you will pass the interceptor, that is auth interceptor. Now it will work. Okay, great. So now every HTTP request our app makes will run through this interceptor. Now we will build the login component. So let's implement the UI components. Start with the login component, open the login.component.ts file here, and I will create a property login data is equal to object with email empty string, password with empty string. Okay, and then I will create a property error message is equal to string of type string and with the empty value by default. Then we need to add constructor to inject auth service is that would be auth service. Make sure to add this import statement. Okay, now we need to create a function on login, and here I will create set the error message to empty. I will clear the previous error if any by using this error message is equal to empty, and then create a constant to get the email and password from the this.login data, and then I will use this auth service login email password subscribe, and within that subscribe function I will pass an object with two properties, next, and next callback would be getting a parameter response, and then we will also have error callback function, and within that I will set this error message. If login fails, then save this message here, that errors message. If it is there, then use it, otherwise show a default error message, login failed, please try again. Okay, save it. Now let's complete our logic here. Here I will assume that response contains the token, so I will create a constant token is equal to response.token, and then I will store the token in the local storage. By the way, I'm getting this error because in the login I did not specify the type of the response from the HTTP request. So let's do that. Go to the login, and here I would add generic type like this, and response is going to have token of type string. With that, this specific error is gone, and now I will store the token in local storage by calling local storage dot set item and pass it the name of the item, token, and the value of the token. Okay, and optionally you can store the user info like email if needed. Local storage dot set item with email property like we did for the token. Now we need to navigate to the profile page after successful login. We'll use the router navigate in the component via auth service or a dedicated router, but here auth service handles the redirection on logout only, so we will just add it here. I will use window.location.href/profile. So this is just a simple redirect. So let me explain. We have a login data object here bound to our form with email password. We have the error message string to display any errors like invalid credentials. In onLogin function, we call authenticate auth service.login function with the entered email password. We subscribe to the observable here. It returned from the HTTP call that we made in the login function. On success, in the next callback, we expect a response containing the JWT token as we coded in our backend. We take the token and save it to the local storage. This is crucial, storing the token on the client. We use the local storage here so that the user stays logged in even if they refresh the page. After storing the token, we redirect the user to the protected page profile. We can use Angular's router to navigate like this.router.navigate to navigate to the profile if we inject the router. In this example, I simply used the window.location.href for brevity, but you can inject router and use that specific function for a spa navigation without full page reload. Actually, let me quickly do that because that won't take much time. So add private router. Okay, I just added the router. Now let's replace it with this.router.navigate profile, save it. That's it. On error, we capture the error message. Our backend sends a message like invalid email or password and display it here. Also note that after login, since we registered the interceptor, any HTTP call made with HTTP client will automatically include the token. So our guard will also allow the route activation because is logged in will now return the true in the guard. Now let's complete the login component.html template, we will create a simple form here. So here I will start with a div auth-container, the class, h2 with login, and then form with event listener submit, and we are going to call a function on login that we just created. And within this form I will create a div, and then I will add label for, actually it is label for email, and within that label I will add the email. And then in that div, after label, I will add input type email and id email, and name should be email, and it should be required. All of those attributes are added, and now I will add the ng model is equal to login data.email. Okay, so I'm getting this error that ng model can't bind to this since it is not noun property of input. The reason is that we still have to import a missing module, that is that is forms module. Import in the imports array of your login component, because we are using standalone components, so you can directly import any module or component in this to use them. So with that, the error is gone. So now I'm going to duplicate this code because it is going to be almost same for the password. So I'm going to change all of these with password. Just this one would be with capital P. Okay, and after that I need a button of type submit with login, and then after the form is finished we will add a P with error class with ng if error message. Oops, that didn't work, so let's just add the P error, and within that I will add print my error message like this, error message, and we will show that based on this condition ng if, and here I will check if error message is there, then show it. We again are getting this error that ng if directive was used in this template, but neither the ng if directive nor the common module was imported. So you can import the ng if like this, it would get rid of this error, but mostly we use the common module instead of ng if, so I am going to use common module, save it, the error would go away. And after that I would add another P tag that would say don't have an account, then add a tag with attribute router link with value sign up. Okay, and we don't need href because it would be added automatically with the help of the router link directive, and within the a tag I will add a text sign up here and save it. So this template binds the fields to the login data.email and login data.password here. Using the ng model, we included the forms module to enable this. And now this form calls the on login when the form is submitted. It displays the error message. If error message is set, it provides a link to sign up page for new users. A basic styling container class auth container is used to style the form. We will add a bit of css in login.component.css similarly for the sign up. So you can add this style in the global styles.css file or in login.component.css. It's up to you. Just to make it a bit neat, we will keep it in the login.component.css. This is not a CSS tutorial, so we will keep it minimal. Okay, so I added this piece of code for CSS. First we added the styles for the auth container with max width of 300, margin 50 pixel auto, padding of 20 pixel, border is 1 pixel, border radius 5 pixel. Then we styled the h2 tag by aligning text in the center. Then we added bottom margin 10 pixel on the divs in the form, and then we styled the labels by setting display block and adding margin bottom. Then we styled all of the inputs by adding the padding and width and box sizing, border box, and then we styled the error by giving it red color, margin top 10 pixel, and aligning it to the center. You can duplicate this styling for sign up as well, or put in common styles in styles.css. Actually that's the better approach. I'm going to cut it and go to the global file that is styles.css, paste it here, and it would be working for both of the forms, on sign up and on the login. Now let's open the signup.component.ts. I am going to basically duplicate the HTML from here into the sign up as well, because most of the things would stay almost same. So just paste it like this, and here instead of login I will have sign up, and on login I will have on sign up here instead. Okay, we will create that missing function shortly. And here instead of login we need the sign up button text, and here I will have another p tag for the success message. If success, then show the success message if it is true. Okay, and here I can say, by the way I misspelled this, go back to the login HTML. It should be don't, like this. Okay, close it, and it should be don't, actually not don't, it is saying that already have an account. Then here I would say login here, and router link would be login in this case. Save it. So this is very similar to login template. We displayed the success message if registration is successful. For example, registration successful, please login. Or an error if something went wrong. There is also a link to go to the login page for existing user. You can ensure, or you can reuse the CSS from login that we already have added in the global area. We just need to add an additional CSS for the success. So I'm going to add it in the global area. Here I would just add this piece of code: auth container space success with color green, margin top 10 pixel, text align would be center. Save it. Now let's complete the .ts file. Here first of all I would add sign up data is equal to email with empty string, and password would be empty string, and then success message should be empty string by default. Error message would also be empty string by default. Then create a constructor to inject the auth service like this, auth service, and after that create a function on sign up, and this dot success message reset it to empty before starting the sign up process. Same thing here, reset the error message to empty string before starting. Then constant should be email, password, and we should be getting them from the sign up data. And then this dot auth service dot sign up, and pass it email and password, and we are getting the observable from that response. So we will pass an object with next, and here I will, if sign up was successful, then I will just simply set message this dot success message is equal to registration successful, please log in. Okay, and I would also add reset or clear the form by using this dot sign up data is equal to email empty and password empty, and in second argument, second property would be error to handle the error if any, and here it is going to be arrow function for this callback. And here I will set this dot error message is equal to error dot error question mark dot message. If it is there, then use that message. If not, then use this default error message. That would be sign up failed. It should be a string, sign up failed, please try again. Okay, save it. So I got these errors because we still need to import some missing imports. First one is forms module, second one is common module. Okay, now we have this login data, it should be sign up data, so replace it with the new property sign up data everywhere. So we have sign up data bound to the form inputs for email and password, a success message to show a confirmation on successful registration, and error message for any errors. On sign up function that calls the auth service dot sign up with email password. On success, we set a friendly success message prompting the user to log in. We also clear the form fields, that is totally optional. We do not automatically log the user in here, they will use the login form next. On error, like if the email is taken or server error, we display the error. Our backend sends email already in use with 400 status, so that should appear if a duplicate email is tried. Next, let's quickly build the profile component that would be the protected page. So finally, let's implement the profile component which the user sees after logging in. This page is protected by our auth guard and will show some user information and logout button. So let's open that folder, go to the .ts file, and here I'm going to add user data is equal to null by default, and error message would be by default empty string, and constructor with two services. First one is auth service, and second one would be the HTTP with HTTP client. Okay, now I will implement on init class, and here we'll add ng on init. Within that we will fetch the profile data from the server. So for that, run the command this.http.get and http localhost 3000 /API/profile and subscribe to it. And now we will have the next response any callback function and the error callback function. In the error, I am going to simply console the error with the message failed to fetch profile and pass a second argument, the error, and this dot error message should equals to could not load profile data. Save it. And also we need on logout function here that would call this .auth service.logout like this. Save it. So let me quickly explain here. On component initialization here, we make a get request to our backend. Actually, I'm doing this thing wrong here. We should not be using the URL directly here. We should be using the URL from the environment variable like this, environment.api URL. Great. So we are sending this get request to our backend API/profile. Thanks to our interceptor, this request will include the authorization bearer header automatically. The server will respond with the user info if the token is valid. We then store that user data. If there is an error, perhaps token expired or server is down, we log it and show an error message. If token was invalid, maybe expired, our backend would have returned 403, and perhaps our auth interceptor could intercept 401 or 403 responses to auto logout, but that's an advanced enhancement. For now, it simply shows an error. We have an onLogout function that calls our auth service.logout to clear the token and redirect to the login. Now we need to implement the component profile.component.html. So I am going to paste all of this code. I will go through it very quickly, but before that, let me add ng common module here, because that is going to be used here. Common module like this. Okay, we got this error user data. Actually, user data is here, but we did not set any type here. I'm going to add any for now here because we want to keep it simple in this video. So I created the profile container, the heading profile, the div that would show conditionally if user data is there, if not null. Otherwise, it would show the loading or error section, that is template reference variable. So we added ng template and gave it or assigned it the template reference variable, and then here we are specifying either show this div, else show this template. Okay, and if user data was not found, then we will check if there is an error, then we will display it, and if error message is not there, then we will show loading profile because it might be loading at that time. And if user data was found, then we will show that data by showing the email from user data.email and the user ID from user data._ID, and we have the logout button that would call the onLogout function. Save it. So this will display the user's email and ID just as the demonstration of the data we got from the backend. We show a loading message here that until user data is fetched, or an error message if one occurred. There is also a logout button that I have explained already. We just need to add a bit of styling in profile.component.css. So this is the CSS profile container with max width of 400, margin 50 pixel vertically and auto horizontally, text align left. We added border of 1 pixel solid, border radius 5 pixel, padding of 20 pixel, and heading should be aligned center, and margin top should be 20 pixel. Save it. Now let's set up our Angular routes. We have 3 main screens: login, sign up, and profile. We need to configure Angular routes for these in app.routes.ts. We already have the array for these routes. We just need to start adding the routes. So first route is this with the path empty string, and this would redirect you to the login route that we would define shortly, and path match should be full. Okay, and then we need another route with the path login, and it should load the component with the name login component, and after that we need another route that would be sign up, and the component would be sign up component, and after that we need the profile route, and it will have the profile component, and after that I will add my can activate property, and here I will pass an array of the guards. Currently we have only one guard, that is auth guard. Just add it and make sure to import that guard. And at the end I need to add a wildcard route for any unverified path that could redirect to the login R404 page. So let's do that. Path is this and redirect to login. All right, our routes are ready. So what we did is that the default path redirects to login. So if the user goes to the root of the app, they see the login page by default. The profile route is protected by the auth guard. That means if user tries to navigate to the /profile route without being logged in, the guard will block it and redirect to the login. Then we have the wildcard route that catches any undefined URL and also redirects to the login. You might instead show a 404 page, but not needed for this demo. Now let's add navigation link that is also optional. Our profile page has logout button. If you also want a way to navigate back and forth, you might include a simple navigation bar. For example, in the app.component.html, here you need this nav a tag with router link / equal to /login, and we don't need href here, just the text login and an if condition, and if is equal to if you auth service dot is logged in. If that is false, then we will show the login button. So if user is not logged in, then we need to show login sign up. So let me import the common module here. Also we are using the auth service here, so we need to inject the auth service. So you can simply create a constant auth service is equal to inject auth service. So in this way you can inject without having the constructor, and now we can use the auth service that we are already using. Also we need to add the router outlet in this way. Okay, all right, now we can duplicate it 4 times. First second one would be the sign up, and here we will add profile sign up, and the route would be profile. For the profile, the condition would be opposite, that it should show it only if user is logged in. And for the logout, again the same condition, it should be shown only if user is logged in already, and the route should there is no need of the route here. You can just add the click event like this, and here we will have the expression or function that would be auth service dot log out. That's it. Okay, and in app.component.ts we already have injected the auth service, so this provides a very basic navigation. However, since we already have links in the forms and logout on the profile, the app is navigable. We can skip a dedicated nav bar for brevity if you want to. Now let's run our server in the browser. We already have started the server earlier, so we just have to open it again. Our backend is also still running, so you can see the login page is there with the email, password, login, and the login and sign up buttons, but they are looking ugly. We just need to quickly add some styles here. The nav a should be display inline block, and margin right should be 10 pixels, and color should be blue, I guess. Okay, great. And also there should be cursor pointer, but these are not functional. Let me see what is wrong there. We added the router link. I guess we did not include the router module, that's why it is not working. Add router module, and now these links would be working.
So yes, these are now working. Profile button link is not visible in nav. Now let's try to register first. Click on the sign up is also not working. So go to the login component. Here you see we are using router link. So that's mean we definitely need to import the router module like this. And now this is clickable. If you click on that, it will take you to the sign up page. Now same thing on the sign up .component.ts, we need to import the router module in this way so that we could have the clickable links. Okay, now let's sign up xyz1@gmail.com, copy the email and add a password abc and open the terminal just to observe what's going on. If there is any error, we will capture from there. Go to the network, hit the sign up. Okay, we got the 404 because we added /API twice, so let's fix that. Go to the environment and we can get rid of this /API from here. Okay, now again add the same email abc, and this time there is no 404, but we got the 201 status and we got the green success message, register successful, please log in. And if you open that, you will get the payload back, the preview that would be saying that user registered successfully, and now you can sign in. So go to the login and here fill the details, password. I will intentionally add the incorrect password login, and you would get login failed error. And here in the preview in the network, we got the invalid email or password message, and the status is 400 bad request. And now let's put the correct password, hit the login again. This time we got the 200 status and it redirected us back to the profile. And on profile this time, as we are logged in, our session has been created. If I show you the application local storage, here you will see that let me delete, this is coming from the old session, but this is the correct token that we are saving. So because of this token we can see the profile, but login button should not be there. So let me see what wrong I have done here. So go to the app.component, and here it is maybe we need to reload. No, we have said that if user is not logged in, then show the login button. So maybe there is an error. Go to the inspect element console. No, I don't see any error. The strange thing is that the sign up button is not visible, but login and profile is visible. Okay, I did a mistake here. The logout button should say logout, not login. So let's add logout. That was confusing me. So let's go back here. Now we have the logout button, but now on the profile we got the loading profile section that is not showing anything. So go to the inspect just to observe things. Go to the network, reload it, and profile return the response with the user. And why it is not showing, let's see. Go to the profile HTML, and here we are showing this part if user data is not found. But why is it not found? Let's see. On ng-init, actually I was not using the response at all, so that's why it is happening. So on getting response, we should save the response in user data like this. Okay, save it. Now you will notice that it is showing, but still email is not visible. Why is that? Because there is a user property here in this response, so use that. Now it is working correctly. We got the email and the user ID. So if you log out, you would see the login page because we redirected to the login. So try clicking on the sign up link that we did earlier. You can fill the form and create an account like we created earlier. If everything is set up correctly, you should see the success message that we saw earlier. So I will log in again. xyz1@gmail.com. Actually go to the login, xyz. So with that, you again see the profile link and logout button, and you can again log out. So if you try to profile now, you will notice that we are never able to access the profile because we have protected it with the help of the guard. It would only be accessible if we have the token in the local storage with the help of we are checking with the help of the guard. So congratulations, you have a working JWT based authentication system. If you want to deploy this application for the backend, you can deploy the Node.js server to the services like Heroku, Render, or DigitalOcean or Vercel, make sure to set the environment variables for JWT secret and update the MongoDB connection string to the production DB, Atlas or other. Also configure CORS or allowed origins accordingly if your frontend is hosted separately. For the frontend, you can build the Angular app for production using ngbuild --prod. This will generate the static files in the dist folder. Those can be deployed to any static site hosting like Netlify, GitHub Pages, Vercel, etc. Alternatively, you can serve those files via Node.js Express server, for example using express.static middleware, so that both backend and frontend are served from one domain. This can simplify the CORS issues. For instance, serve Angular on same domain port as your API in production. I can also record a video on that topic if you want or you are interested. Just let me know. Remember to update the API URL in your Angular environment configuration if your backend is hosted on a different base URL in production. And that's it. You now have a fully functional login sign-up system with JWT Authentication. In this tutorial, we went through the setting up Node.js Express server, secured it with JWT, and built an Angular application that interacts with it using HTTP client, services, guards, and interceptors, following Angular best practices for organization. Thank you for watching this tutorial. We covered a lot of ground from backend to frontend, and you saw how the pieces communicate to form a secure authentication flow. Feel free to customize and enhance this project, add profile editing, better UI, etc. If you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more full stack tutorials, and also hit the bell icon to get notified for upcoming videos. Thanks for watching. Happy coding and goodbye.